The receipt fluttered between my fingers like a dead leaf. $1,500 at Le Seraphine, a restaurant I'd never set foot in. I stood motionless in our kitchen, the scent of lavender candles hanging in the air like Marissa's favorite smoke screen. "You're home early," Marissa called from the living room, a glass of burgundy wine, the expensive kind she claimed we couldn't afford, dangling between her manicured fingers. I'd just been denied a promotion for lacking aggression, after 3 years of overtime. Now this paper bomb on our kitchen counter while our rent was 2 weeks overdue. "Family celebration," Talia explained from her sprawl on our couch, her wrist flashing with a designer watch I'd never seen before. "Marissa's treat. My treat." I held up the receipt. My name was printed at the bottom, along with the last 4 digits of my credit card. A card I kept specifically for emergencies. Marissa rolled her eyes. "Don't be petty. It was important." "Petty?" The word lodged in my throat. I noticed the business card for a family therapist peeking from her purse. Another secret, another expense, another betrayal. I slipped the receipt into my pocket, forced my face into a smile that felt like cracking glass. "Oh, you want to see petty?" That's when I spotted the rent notice hidden beneath a magazine. "Final warning, eviction pending." This wasn't about money. This was systematic betrayal served with a smile and lavender candles. I'd spent 3 years with a woman who used my credit card without permission while hiding eviction notices. "Everything okay, babe?" Marissa asked, her voice sweet as antifreeze. I nodded, my mind racing ahead like a train cutting loose from its station. "Everything's perfect. Just perfect." The eviction notice trembled in my hands the next morning, the red "final warning" stamp mocking me from the mailbox. 2 weeks overdue, and Marissa had never mentioned it. My fingers tightened around the paper, crinkling its edges. "She was with some guy," Neil said an hour later, sliding into the booth across from me at the diner near my office. His eyes darted nervously to my face. "I didn't know how to tell you." I placed the Le Seraphine receipt on the table between us, smoothing it flat with my palm. $1,500. On my emergency card. Neil whistled low. "And you're being evicted?" "Apparently." "That's not pettiness, man. That's war." Neil leaned forward, lowering his voice. "Talia's been bragging at McGinty's about their schemes. Plural. Like this isn't the first time." My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Need to talk." "It's Gina. Talia's girlfriend. You deserve the real story." Later, pacing outside my office building with phone pressed to my ear, I listened as Gina's voice cracked with guilt. The dinner was celebrating Talia's promotion and meeting with an investor for their business venture, she explained. "Marissa used your card as an entry ticket, to impress him." "What business?" My stomach tightened. "They needed your credit history for a business loan. Marissa said you weren't financially aggressive enough to capitalize on opportunities." Gina sent photos from the dinner, Marissa laughing, her hand on the arm of a man I'd never seen, Talia raising a champagne glass. My $1,500 buying someone else's celebration. "I helped them hide things from you," Gina confessed. "But this has gone too far. They're planning to use your name on loan applications." I ended the call and stared at my reflection in the office window. The man looking back seemed different, harder, sharper around the edges. This wasn't just about a dinner anymore. This was identity theft, fraud, and betrayal wrapped in lavender candles and designer watches. And I was just getting started. My laptop screen cast a ghostly blue light across our dining room table as I scrolled through 6 months of bank statements. Marissa was out, with her business partner, no doubt, giving me the chance I needed. "What the hell?" I whispered, noting cash withdrawals from ATMs in neighborhoods I'd never visited. $8,000 in payments labeled household essentials that never materialized in our home. And most damning of all, our rent money diverted systematically to other accounts. My fingers trembled as I opened Marissa's laptop. Her password, my birthday, ironically, granted me access to a trove of betrayal. There, in a folder labeled New Beginnings, sat business registration documents bearing my forged signature. My phone buzzed. Carlos, my accountant friend, was waiting outside. "This is identity theft, plain and simple," he said after reviewing the documents spread across the table. His face grew more troubled with each page. "Look at these transfers to an account labeled Girls Only Bali 2025. It's not just fraud, it's money laundering." "How deep does this go?" I asked. Carlos pointed to recurring transfers. "Your identity is their golden ticket. Your credit score, your history, they're building a business on your financial reputation." Later, I discovered designer bags in Marissa's closet, each with hidden compartments containing copies of my personal documents, birth certificate, social security card, even my passport. In the bottom drawer of Talia's dresser, buried beneath sweaters she never wore, I found photos, Talia arm in arm with Marissa's business partner, their matching features unmistakable. They're siblings, I realized aloud. Not just friends, family conspiring together. My phone rang, an unknown number. Mr. Thompson? This is Meridian Collection Agency. We're calling about your outstanding debt of $30,000. As the agent detailed purchases I'd never made and loans I'd never taken, I felt strangely calm. The pieces were falling into place, a puzzle of betrayal more elaborate than I'd imagined. I understand, I said finally. And I know exactly what to do next. By 9 the next morning, I was sitting in Patricia Winter's office, her identity theft practice housed in a modest building downtown. The gravity of her expression matched the mountain of evidence I'd brought. Classic case of synthetic identity theft, she said, flipping through my documents. They've built a financial house of cards with you as the foundation. Can we stop it? I asked. We can do better than that, Patricia smiled, her eyes sharp as steel. We can make them regret ever thinking of your name. I spent the day executing our plan with surgical precision. First, I called my bank and froze all joint credit cards, including the one used at Le Seraphine. I flagged every suspicious transaction for fraud investigation, my voice steady as I explained each unauthorized charge. Sir, this is quite serious, the bank representative said. There's a pattern here going back months. I'm aware, I replied. That's why I'm also opening a new account, solely in my name. My next paycheck would go somewhere Marissa couldn't touch it. Back at home, I installed tiny cameras in strategic locations, the living room, kitchen, and hallway, then changed every password to my financial accounts, enabling two-factor authentication tied to a new phone number. My landlord's face on the video call shifted from anger to sympathy as I explained the situation, showing him evidence of the diverted rent payments. I'll need 3 days to transfer the back rent, I promised. And I'd appreciate if you didn't mention this conversation to my partner. Been there myself, he said grimly. Take the week. Just make it right. That evening, I sat in my car down the street, watching through my phone as Marissa arrived home with her business partner. The cameras captured their conversation with perfect clarity. Once we secure the loan with his credit history, we'll have enough capital to cut him loose entirely, the man said, his arms sliding around Marissa's waist. The idiot doesn't even check his statements. Not anymore, I whispered to myself, downloading the video as evidence. Not anymore. Marissa's scream echoed through our home, reaching me even through my phone's tiny speaker as I watched from the cafe across town. The cameras captured her panicked face as the cashier declined her card, the fourth attempt at different stores that day. What do you mean frozen? She hissed into her phone, pacing our kitchen. That's impossible. He doesn't even check the accounts. My phone buzzed with texts, first from Marissa, then Talia, finally from the unknown number that belonged to Marissa's business partner. Each message escalated in desperation and thinly veiled threats. What did you do to our cards? You're making a huge mistake. You have no idea who you're messing with, Thompson. On Instagram, Talia had posted a tearful video about toxic partners who sabotage success out of jealousy, already gathering sympathetic comments from strangers who knew nothing of the truth. My office phone rang, Marissa's mother, her voice sharp as broken glass. How dare you destroy my daughter's future? After everything she's done for you. Interesting perspective, I replied calmly. Did she tell you about the identity theft? The forged signatures? The diverted rent money? Her hesitation told me everything. That was just business strategy. You weren't being ambitious enough. I hung up, adding another piece to the puzzle. The entire family knew. They'd all supported the scheme. That afternoon, I sat across from Detective Rivera at the Financial Crimes Division, sliding over a USB drive containing all my evidence. This is methodical, she said, reviewing the files. Have you received any threats since freezing the accounts? I showed her the text messages, the social media posts, the voicemails. We'll need formal statements, she explained. But this is more than enough to open an investigation. Later, a colleague I barely knew approached my desk, her voice lowered. My sister went through something similar, she confided. If you need someone to talk to, or testify, I'm here. My phone lit up with a message from Gina. I recorded them. They're planning to frame you if things go wrong. Meeting tomorrow night at Le Seraphine with all investors. You need to be there. I smiled for the first time in days. Perfect timing. You're sure they'll all be there? I asked Gina over coffee, the cafe's bustle providing perfect cover for our conversation. She nodded, sliding a paper across the table with names and times scribbled in nervous handwriting. 7 o'clock. Private dining room. Every investor, every creditor and, she hesitated, your boss. My boss. The pieces suddenly connected. The promotion denial, the whispered conversations that stopped when I entered rooms. He's part of their investment circle. Marissa promised him a percentage if he kept you, financially motivated. Gina couldn't meet my eyes. I'm sorry. I should have told you sooner. An hour later, I stood in a different conference room at Le Seraphine, my heart racing as Detective Rivera helped me arrange materials on a polished oak table. Remember, she said, let them incriminate themselves. The recording devices will do the rest. The restaurant manager guided me through the plan once more. Your room is adjacent to theirs. When you give the signal, I'll invite them to join you for additional investment information. The doors connect through here. My hands shook slightly as I loaded the presentation. Bank statements, forged documents, camera footage, all meticulously organized by Patricia. My attorney adjusted his tie beside me, reviewing notes. Ready? He asked. Ready, I confirmed, though my throat felt desert dry. At precisely 7:30, I watched through the partially open door as Marissa presented to a room of 8 investors, each face eager for returns on a business built on stolen identity. My stolen identity. As you can see, our credit foundation is impeccable, she beamed, unaware of what awaited her. We've secured the necessary backing through traditional channels. The manager's voice cut smoothly through the room. Pardon the interruption. We have additional prospectus materials prepared in the adjacent room. If you'll all follow me? Their faces as they entered, confusion transforming to shock when they saw me, Detective Rivera, and my attorney, was almost worth every stolen dollar. Good evening, I said, standing tall as Marissa froze in the doorway. I believe we need to discuss some significant corrections to the investment proposal you've just heard. The presentation screen flashed to life behind me, displaying the first incriminating document. Let's start with the actual ownership of that impeccable credit history, shall we? The lock clicked into place with a satisfying finality as the locksmith handed me the new keys. 3 days after the Le Seraphine confrontation, I was reclaiming my home inch by inch, boundary by boundary. All set, sir. New deadbolts, reinforced frames, and I've installed the security system you requested, he said, gathering his tools. Nobody's getting in without your permission now. I ran my fingers over the cool metal of the keys, symbols of my newfound resolve. Outside, Detective Rivera waited in her unmarked car, keeping watch as Marissa's belongings were packed by a court-approved moving service. My phone hadn't stopped buzzing since the arrests. Marissa released on bail, her brother and Talia facing multiple fraud charges. Their frantic messages shifted between threats and desperate pleas for reconciliation. This is all a misunderstanding. We can fix this if you just talk to me. You're making the biggest mistake of your life. Each message strengthened my resolve. In the basement, behind the water heater, I discovered their emergency stash, $8,000 in cash, my missing rent money, hidden in a waterproof container. I photographed it before calling Detective Rivera inside to document the finding. They always keep something hidden, she noted, bagging the evidence. They never expect to get caught. That evening, my phone rang with an unfamiliar number. Is this the man who finally caught James and Marissa? A woman asked, her voice carrying the weight of old wounds. I'm Jennifer, James's ex-wife. They ran the same scheme on me 3 years ago. I've been trying to rebuild my life ever since. We talked for an hour, comparing stories, finding patterns in their methodical approach. The hardest part isn't the money, Jennifer said softly. It's trusting anyone again. After hanging up, I wandered through the half-empty house, noticing how spaces previously cluttered with Marissa's things now breathed with possibility. The lavender scent had faded, replaced by the clean smell of new paint, deep blue walls covering the eggshell white she had insisted upon. My attorney had secured a restraining order against all 3 conspirators. My bank was working to restore my credit. And tomorrow I would return to work to face the boss who had been part of their circle. One boundary at a time. One day at a time. The foundations of my new life were taking shape, built on hard-earned wisdom and steel-reinforced walls. 6 months had passed since the night at Le Seraphine. The maple trees outside my workshop window had shed their summer green for autumn gold, mirroring the transformation in my own life. Hand me that torque wrench, would you? I called to Gina, who had traded her accounting job for a position managing the finances of my growing restoration business. She passed the tool with practiced ease, having become an unexpected ally in the aftermath. The '67 Mustang in my garage represented more than a restoration project. It symbolized everything reclaimed and rebuilt. What had begun as a weekend hobby now provided a steady second income, enough to erase the last remnants of debt from Marissa's scheme. "Your credit score is almost completely restored," Gina mentioned, checking her tablet. "The bank cleared the last fraudulent charge yesterday. And the prosecutor called. They've set a trial date." The charges against Marissa, her brother, and Talia had expanded as investigators uncovered previous victims. What had started as my personal nightmare had revealed a pattern spanning years in multiple states. My phone buzzed with a message from Leona, the assistant district attorney assigned to the case. Her text had gradually shifted from purely professional updates to something warmer, something with potential. "Just confirmed your testimony date. Still on for coffee after the prep meeting?" I smiled, typing a quick affirmative response. The thought of dating again had seemed impossible months ago, but Leona's straightforward nature and unwavering integrity had slowly dismantled my defensive walls. In the living room, freshly painted in deep blues and furnished with clean, minimalist pieces that bore no trace of my previous life, I'd created a wall dedicated to the financial literacy workshops I now conducted twice monthly for fraud survivors. "Your story saved my retirement," read one thank you card pinned beside an article I'd written for a financial magazine that had gone viral, reaching thousands of potential victims before they fell into similar traps. My parents, who had once been charmed by Marissa and gradually distanced themselves from me, were visiting next weekend, another relationship slowly healing through honesty and time. As I polished the Mustang's chrome to a mirror finish, I caught my reflection. Older, perhaps, with new lines around my eyes, but steadier. The man who had once blindly signed credit card receipts without checking had been replaced by someone wiser, stronger, and remarkably, still capable of hope. The courtroom fell silent as the judge adjusted her glasses, preparing to deliver the verdict. 9 months of legal proceedings had culminated in this moment. I sat in the front row, Leona beside me in her prosecutor's suit, her hand occasionally brushing mine for reassurance. "On all counts of fraud, identity theft, conspiracy, and financial abuse, this court finds the defendants guilty," the judge announced, her voice echoing through the hushed room. Marissa didn't turn around, but her shoulders stiffened as the sentence was read: 4 years imprisonment and full restitution of all stolen funds. Her brother received 6 years due to prior convictions. Talia, having agreed to testify against her co-conspirators, received 18 months and probation. Outside the courthouse, reporters gathered around me, microphones extended. "Just one question," called a woman with a recorder. "Emily Chin from Patterson Publishing. We'd like to discuss the possibility of a book about financial fraud from a survivor's perspective." Later that evening, as Leona and I celebrated with a quiet dinner, my phone buzzed with an unfamiliar prison number. The message was simple: "I need to see you. One last time. I know things I never told you. Please." "You don't owe her anything," Leona reminded me, her eyes concerned. This could be another manipulation. "I know," I replied, staring at the message. "But maybe I need this for myself." The prison visiting room was starker than I'd imagined. Concrete and steel, devoid of comfort. Marissa sat across from me, the orange jumpsuit washing out her complexion. Without the designer clothes and carefully applied makeup, she seemed smaller, diminished. "Thank you for coming," she began, her voice practiced, rehearsed. "I have information about other schemes, people who might come after you." "Stop," I interrupted, recognizing the familiar pattern. Even now, she was trading in information, seeking leverage. I didn't come for more manipulation. Her mask slipped, just momentarily, revealing the calculation behind her eyes. "Goodbye, Marissa," I said, standing. "Thank you for the lesson. It was expensive but invaluable." Walking out, I felt a weight lifting, the final link in a chain I'd been carrying too long. That evening, I opened my desk drawer and removed the last remaining photograph of Marissa, feeding it into the shredder without hesitation. My phone buzzed with a message from Leona. "Dinner tomorrow? Not case-related. Just us." I smiled and typed my reply, ready at last for something real. 2 years after the verdict, I leaned against the polished fender of a freshly restored Corvette, admiring the way sunshine caught on its classic lines. My restoration shop had expanded to a proper garage with 3 employees, a dream built from the ashes of financial disaster. "Mr. Thompson?" My assistant poked her head through the door. "Your editor called about the final manuscript revisions, and there's a school in Phoenix requesting another financial literacy workshop next month." My book had become an unexpected bestseller, translated into 11 languages, helping countless others recognize the warning signs I'd missed. The workshops had grown from local community centers to national conferences. "Tell her I'll call back this afternoon," I replied, wiping grease from my hands. "And yes to Phoenix if we can coordinate with Leona's schedule." As if summoned by her name, Leona appeared in the doorway, her prosecutor's briefcase exchanged for casual weekend clothes. 2 years together had cemented our relationship into something I'd once thought impossible. Partnership built on absolute transparency and trust. "There's an envelope from the correctional facility," she said, keeping her tone neutral. "Marissa wants to participate in a documentary about fraud. They need your permission since your case is featured." I took the letter, considering its weight. "No," I decided, tossing it into the recycling bin. "That chapter's closed." "I support that," Leona smiled, understanding without explanation. "Ready for lunch?" "Gina's joining us with the quarterly reports." Gina had become my financial officer, her expertise transforming my hobby into a legitimate business. Her testimony had been crucial in putting Talia away, a difficult choice she never regretted. My phone rang, Detective Rivera's number. "Thompson," she said without preamble. "Thought you should know. Marissa and Talia were caught running a new scheme from inside Prison Communication Networks. They were planning something for after their release, targeting you specifically." I thanked her for the information, feeling strangely detached from the news. Their schemes no longer had power over me. That evening, Leona and I sat on the porch of my completely renovated home, watching the sunset paint the sky in brilliant oranges and purples. "Do you ever regret any of it?" she asked, her hand warm in mine. "Never regret lessons that made you stronger," I replied. "Just make sure you remember them well." The wind rustled through the trees as I added silently, "Keep your receipts, protect your heart, but never let fear drive your life."